Two things prompted this video. The first was a hot take that said that you can't win in Marvel Snap if you don't have new cards. The second was the fact that if Cosmic Ghost Rider is pretty good right now, so is Red Guardian. So let's talk about the deck that is best able to utilize Red Guardian in a shell that hasn't gotten a new card since January. That's right, it's Afflict. And the secret third reason that I wanted to talk about Afflict is that I played this list and climbed an easy 50 SP with it, which means that it's still going strong despite not receiving massive support as an archetype in a way that actually improves this deck list. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because a lot of people are talking about this kind of stuff in the context of zombies stuff. Look at Afflict and look at zombies and tell me they're all that different. What I'm saying here is there is a very real precedent for decks surviving and being built around a fairly exclusive mechanic and still being playable in the right metagames. What makes this the right metagame? Largely, it's the wide-rangingness of it. It has become not necessarily pointless, but not exactly optimal to try to answer everything that people play with tech cards. The threats people are playing are just too varied for you to have enough coverage against everything. You need Shadow King for the decks making a bunch of green power, but you don't get to use Shadow King against an Invisible Woman First Steps deck where it would be good if you were able to actually play it, but you can't. You need Mercury to beat the move decks, but she does nothing in every other matchup. You need Mobius to beat Mr. Negative, but he's not doing as much as he used to, and he's a 3/3 now. The breadth of threats is very, 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 very high, which has led to generic tech like Cosmic Ghost Rider becoming playable. And Cosmic Ghost Rider is, when you really get down to it, just a big red guardian. So there's two things that this deck has going for it. The first is absolutely nobody ever, other than a Cerebro deck, has any ability to put Luke Cage in their decks at this point. You just don't have to worry about that at all. The second is that if a bunch of people are playing this sort of broad tech mid-range stuff and you Wicken them, you just go over the top of them. You have fairly similar weaknesses to other mid-rangey decks, but you're setting yourself up to be the mid-range deck that beats the other mid-range decks. You have your Red Guardian, you have the ability to like shrink a Human Torch or something like that, or blow up a Madam Web or whatever. You have this minimal interactivity that does matter, and baseline, you probably also just have more points than anyone doing zombie-related stuff a lot of the time. This deck consistently outputs near the top end of mid-range output, and that is largely the power that it has right now. A, it gets to play Red Guardian, who is basically a small version of Cosmic Ghost Rider that fits better with the synergy of this deck. B, the Wiccan part of it allows you to go power for power with basically every mid-range deck in the game. And C, because the threats are so wide, there's not really any kind of loss that you're taking from not being able to run other tech, because it's very, very hard to fit all of the tech you need in a deck to begin with, so why bother doing it? Just play Red Guardian and a bunch of points and call it a day. And that really worked for me. So largely what this video is trying to address are several things that I think are reasonable misconceptions to have. The first is that you need new cards in Marvel Snap to be good. Diamondback is the most recent card released here. Everything else came out in 2024 or 2023. If you want to call those new, I disagree. The second is that cards and packages that don't necessarily receive future help, like Horde, are just going to end up unplayable by nature. This deck really only needed a couple of pieces, and only one of them was related to Afflict. It got Malekith. That's not necessarily an Afflict card, it just happens to be really good in here. It got Diamondback, which is an Afflict card, but I think a lot of people are dooming about Horde in a way that is fairly analogous to dooming about Afflict. Oh, they're not going to make more of these. Well, I mean, they might not need to. That is the main thing that I wanted to talk about here. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was, guys, this deck is actually just good when people aren't able to properly solve the metagame with a bunch of tech cards. Sometimes you just have to throw your hands up and be like, I'm going to play a lot of points and like some decent interaction. It's not going to be enough in every matchup, but it's going to be enough in enough of them. And Afflict is actually legitimately doing that very well right now. The Quicksilver Domino base fits in Afflict very well as a deck that has a lot of reasonable 3-drops and not a lot of reasonable early game cards. Quicksilver is obviously here mostly to facilitate Wiccan, but this is a deck that loses a lot less comparatively to other decks that are playing Quicksilver Domino. When you look at other Wiccan decks, they're losing out on good cards, losing out on Merlin stuff, they're losing out on Kate Bishop. That's like good and you actually want to be playing it. When it comes to Afflict, you just need to overload on the Afflict part of what your deck is doing. You need all of these cards in there, and so Quicksilver and Domino are not just turning on your Wiccan, they're also allowing you to fit all the cards you want to fit into this deck into it. I've kind of always had a soft spot for Domino. I'm not saying that it's like the greatest thing in the world, but all the way back in the beta, Jeff Hoagland used to make these like Domino mid-range decks that the curve would start with Domino, and then the idea was basically that you would fill the rest of the deck out by allowing you to have like all these different and various options. It never really took hold, but this is kind of the spiritual successor here in the sense that you're really getting a benefit out of the deck building upside of Domino here, which is that you are just able to play a bunch of stuff. Luke Cage is pretty good, but honestly, I think you should be very careful with him because of things like Cosmic Ghost Rider and Red Guardian. You do have to be really aware of like, okay, I need to put this guy in the Quicksilver lane to protect him from opposing Red Guardians. If I do that, though, because I want to curve into my Wiccan, I am going to have to just accept that my opponent will have the option to turn him off, which means that a lot of the time you're going to have to play as if it's possible for him to get turned off against decks like zombie decks that could reasonably do that. Managing your board space also when people are doing Cosmic Ghost Rider stuff, but also doing Clog stuff, and it's hard to know which one they're actually doing. That stuff's pretty apparent as well. I think this is still a good card, but honestly, he's a lot worse than you think he is. Small Cosmic Ghost Rider with some minor upside for you. This is a deck that has a very high curve already. You don't really have a lot of desire to get real Cosmic Ghost Rider in here. So the basic ethos of playing this deck right now is like, look, what we lack in Cosmic Ghost Rider, we make a decent amount up for in having Red Guardian. And then compared to the Cosmic Ghost Rider decks, we're probably just going to have more points in the heads up because we're Wiccaning, we're vomiting out a bunch of points, we're playing Wiccan, we're playing Malekith, we're playing Anti-Venom, all of this stuff that lets us just pound for pound have more points than our opponents. And that is the ethos here. We're going to take on those zombie decks that are playing Cosmic Ghost Rider, and we're going to say, I'm bigger than you. Diamondback, when paired with, of course, Hazmat, is a 3/11. You could argue a 3/15 if you're counting the Hazmat. I'm not really counting the Hazmat, but you're very interested in a 3/11. You're even more interested in a 3/11 that you could pull off of a Malekith. Absolutely phenomenally powerful card. I've started to think of Hazmat as like a little bit of a design issue because the way Hazmat and Ajax works, I know this sounds weird, but I feel like they permanently solved how this deck is supposed to play out until those cards change. Like, if you want to make any kind of card that scales with Afflict, well, just Hazmat it. All the other stuff isn't nearly as good as Hazmatting. It's just always going to be worse than just playing this card. It's not necessarily like this is a busted thing to do. It's just like she is occupying about 98% of the space for I want to afflict my opponent with stuff. And that's a weird thing because the rest of the cards in this deck are like, yeah, I want to afflict my opponent, but mostly I'm a really good body. So this is really what's doing things to like, I want to afflict my opponent with a bunch of stuff. This is the Diamondback card. You're like, yeah, you can use Man-Thing for that, or Laufey if you want to play Laufey instead of Man-Thing, but it's Hazmat. That's what she is. Speed's just like a 3/8, 3/9. Like we talked about Diamondback, speed is just usually in that range. The one problem I think you really have with a card like Speed, and it's not his fault, it's just more about how the deck is constructed, is that when you make a Domino deck and you don't hit the Wiccan, you end up playing off curve on at least the final turn of the game because you're gonna end up looking at like maybe it's a 4+ nothing, right? Because you don't have a 2 to pair with your 4s. So it ends up being like a 3 + a 3 a lot of the time. And that's where Speed can really shine, is like, let's say you have an anti-venomed card and then your final turn is Speed Hazmat anti-venomed card. That's the kind of stuff that makes you actually be able to win games. So just having like a pretty big guy, Diamondback does the same thing. Like you need to have a bunch of threes in this deck, not just for Malekith reasons, but so that when your curve gets a little bit awkward and you aren't able to Wiccan, they end up showing up. And then also when you are able to Wiccan, the threes are the most important thing when it comes to weaving into the curve. You get a 4+3 on turn 5, you get a 5+3 on turn 6, or a 4+4, but like the threes end up being really important to your curve in every single situation. Honestly, I might run a second speed in this deck if I could. Like, it's not his fault, the situations he gets put into sometimes, and I think having a lot of threes is a really good thing that this deck has access to. DJ Mally Mal is basically just anti-venom, except the card goes on the board a lot of the time. Just a very powerful effect to have access to. Genuinely kind of an absolutely excellent guy doing really powerful stuff really consistently. I'm still not sure how to weigh playing him versus playing Anti-Venom, because Anti-Venom, for example, weak to Mobius, but gives you more control over where the card actually is and typically can have some additional upside if you get a 4 instead of a 3, or God forbid for your opponent an Ajax. All of that kind of stuff, very reasonable. Wiccan is your, not force multiplier, but hammer, I think might be a good word, against the other mid-rangey decks. Just having access to being like, look, I'm going to play more stats than you this game. That's really what he represents. Like, you already are a pretty good stats deck, but in order to really fulfill this deck sort of role in the metagame, you need to be able to look at the zombie decks and just be like, I have more points. I'm sorry about all the stuff you're doing, but I have more points than you. I have more energy than you. It's my synergies are better. Deal. You're just not going to do anything about what I'm doing. And Wiccan is a big part of that, just like brute force power. Anti-Venom is quite a good card. I think anyone who watches this knows my incredible sympathies for this card. It's one of my favorite cards in the game. It's part of why I keep coming back to decks like this. I just love having additional options on the final turn of the game. But I will say a lot of the time, the idea of this card is better than the practice of this card. That's definitely something that should stick out to you. If you'd like to replace Man-Thing with Laufey, feel free. They have the exact same role. I'm a large man doing large man things. That's really the only thing that these cards are doing. They're doing the same damn thing. They're not performing a utility role. It's just like, what's up? I'm a stat stick. One of us starts as a 4/7. The other one starts as a 4/5. Like, they're kind of the same card. And I think you could reasonably argue Laufey is a little bit better, but Man-Thing is a little bit easier to play earlier, I think, some of the time. It depends on how it goes. I typically don't really want to be playing Man-Thing earlier, but also he can end up doing really crazy stuff. I think if you want to make that swap, I have no objections to it. In my head, I would argue that Laufey is probably just a better card, but in my heart belongs to Man-Thing. This is your zombie giant man, basically. Like, if you look at this deck and stack it up against the zombie decks, you can kind of see what's going on here, I think. Like, it's fairly similarly constructed, where it's like, all right, look, we can't have every tech card, so we're just going to do a bunch of points and have some answers, and your goal is to be bigger than them, and you have all this Afflict stuff that gives you random wins against other things. Like, it's just a fairly powerful deck. Ajax obviously gets quite large. He is definitely a beast. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I have been KMBest. You have been phenomenal. Enjoy the gameplay. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. They are the driving force. Oh, Arishem. Hello, Arishem. Hello. Please tell me that's okay. Just making sure it was actually an Arishem card. Had to be positive. Okay, so we will be able to retreat, I suppose. It seems as though we will, in fact, be allowed to retreat here. Now, a lot of cards in their deck. Let's think of a random Scarlet Witch. Yeah. But, I mean, I think they probably want to be able to retreat, to be honest with you. I think if I'm them, I would like the ability to retreat. Seems good. Okay, so hazmat should do it here. Oh, but they prevent the hazmat from working with an Eliath. That's crazy. Great play by them. We beat the Eliath heads up is the thing. What are you possibly doing? All right, you got it. I'm assuming they're sniping. Yep. 6, 3, 7. I assume they sniped and miscounted. Maybe in a year someone will figure it out kind of deal. Okay, all right. I see what's happening here, and I'm not a fan.
Right on time.
Surely I draw a 3. That isn't hazmat. I'll take it. I feel like I'm getting goblined here, if I had to guess. Herbie, what the fuck? Yeah, Asteroid M just fucking doing shit, man. Is this a snap? I don't think so. I don't know what the Herbie means, but I feel good about it. I don't know. I feel like it is. What I'm worried about is losing these 2 lanes, like just a 1 clog card. I mean, I'm gonna snap. I don't know. I'm probably fucked. Baron Mordo, don't make it 6. Read Baron Mordo again, please. You're going to need to reread Baron Mordo for that, I think. Yep. Needed to reread the Baron. Well, on the one hand, I do like having energy. On the other, I don't even have my Wiccan, so I guess it's just chill. Like, normally it'd be like, oh, no. But, like, I don't even have the Wiccan, so I guess I'm just chilling and losing to, presumably, Phoenix Force. Not a helpful card.
Odds?
See it. Don't get me wrong. But now I actually have priority. Got the torch! Let's go. Onto the Fanfei. All right. Maybe this works. I honestly have no idea.
I see the way.
Okay, so the hazmat should take this, if I'm not mistaken. Love matting some hazes, baby. Got a 3 this time.
What are the odds?
I don't hate that. I gotta play around a Mobius. Weirdly okay with that. Makes that Ajax absolutely fucking enormous, correct? They don't even know how the Negasonic Loot Cage interaction works. No, I know they had it from the Gwenpool hits. It's just, holy shit.
Always lucky.
Don't Sam me, bro. Didn't Sam me, but... They could go for the 3 if they... I'm not saying it would be a good thing to do. And weirdly, the way this is panning out, I'm not a good thing for them to go for all the energy here. But they almost certainly have the ability to go. thought they were Thanos. Really interesting. I mean, that's awesome. Ooh, and they're probably going to be able to Agamotto the shit out of it. And who can say what actually happens here? Am I allowed to snap this, or is this too greedy? I'll snap it. I'm imagining they're going to like 60 on the left. Oh, it's double Cerebro. Actually kind of funny. Is he? I could lose here. I think it's very plausible. If he's got a big enough 5 on that right lane. I go for the thing here. Midges. Oh, is this the play for I don't get diamond back? That's sick as fuck, dude. That's a genius play. I didn't get diamond back. I do get red guardian though. It's chill. Like, this would normally be like a reasonable thing from them. It's not reasonable enough. Wait, he actually is? Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!